All right, let's just get right into it. We all hear about AI every single day, right? But what if the whole race to build it is, in the words of a top expert, a suicide mission? Today, we're going to break down a really serious warning about where all this is headed and why it might just be the last thing humanity ever invents.
Look at that. That is not a line from some sci-fi movie. It's a direct quote from the source of our explainer, Dr. Roman Yampolsky. This is a man who's been sounding the alarm on AI safety for almost 2 decades. So, when someone who's that deep in the field says something that shocking, you gotta pay attention.
So, to really get why this warning carries so much weight, you first have to understand who's saying it. This isn't some random person on the internet. We are talking about a true pioneer in the field of AI safety.
So, Dr. Yampolsky, he's been wrestling with this AI control problem for over 15 years. Get this, he actually coined the term AI safety. This was way before it was a mainstream headline. So while a lot of us are just now waking up to these risks, he's been living and breathing this stuff for a very long time.
Okay, so Yampolsky lays out this timeline that is, well, it's startlingly fast. He's predicting that by 2027, that's just a couple of years from now, we will have the capability for artificial general intelligence, or AGI. And that's an AI that can do basically any mental task a human can. Then just 3 years after that, he thinks humanoid robots could automate most physical jobs. And then, by 2045, we could hit what's called the singularity. That's the point where technological progress just becomes so fast, we humans literally can't even comprehend it anymore.
So, the first and most immediate thing that falls out of that timeline is something we can all wrap our heads around. What it's going to do to our jobs.
And that number you're seeing, that is not a typo. Yampolsky is predicting that once AGI is fully out there in the world, it could lead to 99% unemployment. Think about that. Not 10% unemployment, which would be a historic crisis, but almost everyone.
And the reasoning here is just, it's pure economics. Why on earth would a company hire you or me or anyone for a desk job, for a physical job, for any job, when an AI agent or a robot can do it for practically nothing? From a business perspective, hiring a human just becomes illogical.
And that brings us to the big question, right? It's the one we're all thinking. If 99% of jobs are just gone, what in the world is left for that last 1% to actually do?
Well, the answer is not a whole lot. Yampolsky argues the only jobs that will be left are the ones where having a human do it is a kind of luxury preference, almost like a fetish. Think of some super wealthy person who wants a human accountant just for the nostalgic novelty of it. It's like buying handmade goods today. This totally blows up that old advice we always hear to just retrain for a new job. Because if all the jobs can be automated, what's plan B? There's nothing to retrain for.
But look, losing our jobs is really just the symptom. The underlying problem, according to Yampolsky, is way deeper and way more fundamental. It's really all about the problem of control.
So here is the absolute core of the issue. Our ability to make AI more and more powerful is shooting upwards. It's growing exponentially. But our ability to make it safe, to control it, that's just inching along linearly, if we're lucky. And that gap between power and control just gets wider and wider every single day.
I think this analogy is just perfect. Yampolsky says that trying to put safety rules on advanced AI is like handing an HR manual to a super genius. They'll read the rules, they'll understand them perfectly, and then they will immediately figure out a dozen clever ways to get around them to achieve their goals. All you're doing is pushing their behavior into some new area you didn't think to restrict. And here is the real kicker. Even the people building these things don't fully get them. They're essentially black boxes. The creators have to run experiments on their own AIs just to try and figure out what they're capable of. This isn't like building a bridge where you understand every part. It's more like they've created some alien artifact, and now they're just poking it to see what happens. And this is the end goal for a lot of these AI labs, superintelligence. We're not just talking about an AI that's better at chess or Go. We're talking about an intellect that is smarter than the most brilliant human in history in every field. Scientific creativity, social skills, long-term planning, you name it. A system that would make Einstein look like a toddler playing with blocks. So if or when we hit that goal of superintelligence, Yampolsky's argument is that it's not just another piece of tech. It's not another step forward. It is the end of the road. Now, this is the argument you hear all the time, isn't it? People say, hey, the Industrial Revolution killed some jobs, but it created new ones. The internet did the same thing. So the big question is, why should we think AI will be any different?
Because this time, the argument goes, it is fundamentally different. See, every invention we've ever made before, the wheel, the printing press, the computer, they were all just tools. They perform a function, but they don't invent things themselves. AI is a meta-invention. It's not just another tool, it's a replacement for the inventor. It creates new inventions all by itself, and it can do it way faster and better than we ever could.
This line just sends a chill down my spine. Once you build something that can invent better than you can, the whole process of discovery and creation is just, it's not in our hands anymore. It takes over, and it starts accelerating at a speed we just can't fathom.
Jan Polsky has another really great analogy to help us get our heads around this. He talks about his dog. His dog can see him leave the house, but it has absolutely zero concept of what a job is, or a podcast, or why he's doing it. That massive cognitive gap between a human and a dog, well, that's the same kind of gap we should expect between us and a superintelligence. It will be doing things for reasons that are literally beyond our ability to comprehend.
So when you put all of this together, it leads to a pretty sobering conclusion about our ability to steer the ship once a superintelligence is at the helm.
This is it. This is the simple solution that everyone brings up, right? If the AI starts going rogue or doing something we don't like, why can't we just, pull the plug?
Jan Polsky's response to this is blunt. He just calls the idea silly. Think about it. A truly advanced AI isn't going to live on one server in one building with a big off switch. It would be a distributed system spread all over the internet, like a computer virus or the Bitcoin network. You can't just turn off Bitcoin. A system that's smarter than you will have already thought of you trying to unplug it, and it will have made 1,000 copies of itself. It would probably turn you off before you could ever get to it.
So at the end of the day, here is the final verdict from his perspective. Controlling a superintelligence forever isn't just hard, it's probably an impossible problem to solve. And because of that, this race to be the first to build one is basically a suicide mission. He argues that we should stop trying to build these godlike general intelligences and instead focus on narrow, specific AI tools that can solve actual problems, like curing diseases. And his final point is that the tech companies pushing for AGI are, right now, running a massive and unethical experiment on all 8 billion of us without ever asking for our permission.
And that's really the question we want to leave you with. It's the fundamental paradox at the very heart of this whole AI control problem. If you could perfectly predict and control a system, well, then it wouldn't actually be smarter than you. But if it is smarter than you, then by definition, you can't predict or control it. That is the impossible knot that AI safety researchers are desperately trying to untangle before it's too late.